All right. So this next comic review doesn't come from one of the comics Chris sent me. This actually comes from a book I got myself, and this is one I was like, I don't know, do I want to read this? Like, do I want to, give this a shot? Do I want to Because I'm like, what can you do with the character? And I sat down after reading some, good reviews for it, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And that is Carnage. This is Volume 1 in the Court of Crimson. Pretty metal album. This is from Ram V, or Ram 5, I don't know how you pronounce that. This is the guy who also, the other thing that gave me the needed step to want to read this Carnage book was that I really dug the Swamp Thing book so far. So I was like, you know what? I really dug the volumes for Swamp Thing, so I'm going to read this. And I recently got the second volume of Carnage, which I'll review in due time. So there's a bit of backstory for this book. This is, first off, Cletus Cassidy is not connected to Carnage. The Carnage symbiote is out on its own. And the Carnage symbiote is enacting a plan that we don't know yet. But what we do know is that Carnage has big plans to spread more Carnage across not just this world, but a lot of worlds. So this book, excuse me, this book basically is Carnage getting together the vital pieces he needs in order to enact his plan. And I know we've done the whole thing of having, why does Carnage need a plan? The only plan is that he needs to kill people. Well, the thing is that he is the symbiote is just kind of like, for so long I felt like I was tethered to Cassidy and his stupid ideas, but the idea of just murdering everything is so intoxicating I can't let it go. Along the way, Carnage picks up a serial killer named Kenneth Neely, who is known as the Artist, who is brutally murdering people in order to get Carnage's attention to be his new host. But Carnage is like, nah, but I could use a friend. Come on, you can tag along and learn from me. Kenneth is being pursued by a detective named John Shade, who sounds like a crime pulp novelist, which Ram's writing does kind of play with that. But yeah, and the Carnage symbiote, I'll just call it Carnage, and Carnage implants a bit of itself, which is a part of Cletus's psyche, into John to be like, to keep Kenneth going. Like, yeah, you've got your own white whale who is inspired to go after you. That's your inspiration right there. The comic is pretty graphic. This is probably the scariest I've seen Carnage in a while, because the thing of it is, Carnage is hunting down for the first start, Carnage is hunting down several metahumans, namely Hydro Man and the Spot, and taking their powers so he can find a way to go to a new world. What's that new world? Stavelheim. Yeah, we're going to Stavelheim because there's something there that he wants. And it's like there's like a method to Carnage's madness, where it's this long, like, okay, I need this piece to get me that piece, and then that piece will get me to this place, and then I'll get a piece from there, and it's like National Treasure, but with a lot more gore. That's what we're kind of dealing with here in this book, is that it's a lot like National Treasure meets Hellraiser. That's really how it is. Speaking of, I would really love to see Ram V's take on a Hellraiser comic. I don't know who has the comic rights. I don't know if it's still Boom Studios or whoever, but I personally would really love to see his take on Hellraiser, because this and Swamp Thing were really good at body horror and really good at the horror in general. The action sequences are very well done. There's just some brutal scenes that I just can't show you. The whole overarching story feels really like a nice little, and it leaves off in a way where it's like, where do we go now? And we still don't, by the end of this book, you still don't know what Carnage's big plan is, because even like Kenneth, even though he's a serial killer, you see him get knocked down peg after peg after peg being around Carnage, because that's just what Carnage is just you know, a being that is, you know, it's untethered by Cletus's obsession, but still has his drive to kill. And that's really terrifying. Yeah, also, just in case you haven't figured, in case anyone didn't figure it out yet, this was the start of the Carnage ongoing that would lead to the currently running Carnage Reigns event, which is involving, like, Red Goblin and Miles and the main Carnage book. I still can't believe that we're having a Carnage ongoing, and it's really good, and also is just completely unapologetic, and it's just horror, and it's brutality, and it's all building up to, as we know, is called Death of the Venomverse, where Carnage will challenge a newly resurrected Null to take on become the god of the symbiotes. So I imagine we're probably going to get from a King in Black to a King in Red. That's kind of that's more or less how I see it. Also, for the final part of this, after in issue 5, we have some horror stories. One written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, which is, of course, I already just did a Philip Kennedy Johnson book with his Alien comic, and another by Dave Michelinie, who was one of the co-creators for Carnage. And the artwork is done by Mark Bagley, which it's also a nice little horror story too. There's also some cute little parodies, like gory parodies of horror, of like Sunday morning cartoon comics, of Sunday morning comics. Blech, tongue-tied. Do I recommend Carnage in the Court of Crimson? Yeah. I actually like, because Carnage is, it's funny to me because Carnage has always been a character that has always been like, yeah, why? Why do we need a Carnage ongoing? He's really a one-note character, and he peaked in the 90s. Well, this comic was written as his 30th anniversary, and it really does hold up as a universe-trotting kill fest, and it's a lot of fun. If you like things like Mindhunter, Hellraiser, and maybe some God of War in there, this puts it in a blender and puts it on puree. Yeah. So go check this out, but if you have already read it, let me know in the comments below what you guys think of it. Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.